Hey family, it's Julie B. Deep Dives, and today I'm diving deeper into the origins of Tabitha and the reincarnation theory, after the bombshell ending of Season 3, Episode 9, Revelations Chapter 1. I dove deep into this theory in 3 previous videos, and now I can honestly say that I have all the confirmation that I need to be confident in it, more so than ever before. There are still alternate explanations for what happened to Tabitha in episode 9, but I truly think that reincarnation makes the most sense, and it confirmed what I already believed. In a mind-bending scene with Victor, a flood of memories rushes over Tabitha as she apparently remembers her past life as Miranda. While she's hugging him, we see a flashback to Miranda hugging Victor and Eloise before running into the woods and getting murdered by none other than Smiley. I'll break down Tabitha and Victor's new scenes and give you my impression of what happened here, tying it together with all the evidence for the reincarnation theory that I've been presenting for over a month now in my videos. Other creators have recently come to the same conclusion that I came to on my own, and other people and fans before me have thought about this off and on since season 1. Now, more and more people this season are putting the pieces of this puzzle together and settling on this theory of reincarnation. So without further ado, let's get into it. A little over a month ago, I released my video, Season 3, Episode 3, Tabitha and the Fromville Mirror World Theory. Toward the end of that video, I discussed a possible explanation for Tabitha finding another bracelet in Henry's glove compartment, just like the one she had made for Jim. In that video, I said she might have been able to make an identical bracelet because she used to be Miranda in a past life. This would also explain how Tabitha chose Miranda's favorite song, Blue, by Joni Mitchell, as her song with Jim. It's not a song that one would expect anyone to choose as a romantic couples song. In addition, I pointed out that Henry was strangely protective over Tabitha after just meeting her the day before. He went from being hostile and threatening to call the police to bandaging a cut on her hand the next day, which she could have done for herself. And he kept expressing his concern over the fact that she wouldn't eat anything or sleep. I thought that perhaps he felt instinctively protective of her because she is his reincarnated wife. This is what I said in that video, but I wasn't ready to fully commit to the theory just yet. After watching episode 6, I was fully on board. At the end of that episode, Tabitha saw a drawing of a totem which triggered a memory of a recurring nightmare that she had as a little girl. She used to dream of herself wearing old-fashioned clothes, including a cape and an apron, walking among the red-painted rocks near the cabin settlement. Given all of the other evidence pointing to her reincarnation from Miranda, this dream convinced me to commit to the theory. The way I see it, Tabitha was experiencing a vision of a Fromville from the past, dressed in clothing from that era. And she was dressed that way because this is how people would have dressed in the time period that she was seeing at that time. So I made my next video, The Origins of Jade and Tabitha, in which I compiled all the clues pointing toward reincarnation, starting with Season 1, when she found that first identical bracelet in the diner storage room, the same as the bracelet she had made for Jim and lost in the hospital years before. Miranda was later shown wearing that same bracelet in a flashback in Season 2. And then there was this scene of Tabitha and Victor in the cave in Season 2, when Tabitha opened an old suitcase with a 1964 World's Fair sticker and pulled out what looks like a wedding dress or some kind of bridal lingerie. She reacted in a startled and confused manner, but Victor urged her to keep moving and it was never addressed again. She seemed to recognize it, though. Later, Tabitha found a crayon holder in Victor's room and said, "I remember this." This is a big clue that she was either Miranda or Eloise in a past life, as both had contact with this object. But I firmly believe that the rest of the clues in the show have pointed to Miranda rather than Eloise. And then there's the deeply loving maternal relationship that developed between Victor and Tabitha in Season 2. Tabitha was the only person who was able to unlock deeply buried memories from Victor's psyche. He opened up to her in ways he never had with anyone else on screen. The only way Jade had been able to get information out of him was by playing him the song his mother used to play him on the violin. So it seems that only his mother's influence can summon his most painful, brutal memories, and Tabitha fits the bill. He even gave her his precious lunchbox full of snacks to bring with her and brought her to the bottle tree, a place he had never told anyone about before. Fast forward to season 3, and the clues have continued to mount toward reincarnation. Tabitha was pushed out of the lighthouse and landed right in the vicinity of Victor's father's house, Henry. It can't be a coincidence. Of all the places for her to land, it was here? In episode 2 of season 3, Henry explained to Tabitha that his wife had dropped acid and then had visions and heard voices, which told her that she needed to save some children, and she was a chosen one. Miranda got the message that she needed to save them and could see all the chosen ones who had failed to do that before her. Now, it's possible that these women were just filling the same role and being sent the same visions, but I believe these were exactly Miranda's past lives. She painted everything she saw, and these paintings were full of Fromville entities and places, including a Puritan-looking woman who could be from the original timeline of Fromville, possibly one of Miranda's past lives. And then once again, Tabitha discovered that Miranda had the same favorite song, Blue by Joni Mitchell, and she found that identical bracelet to her own in Henry's glove compartment. These phenomena could be explained if she were reincarnated from Miranda. Granted, it's strange that she could even recreate the same distinctive flaw in the bracelet, but maybe we just need to suspend our disbelief over that. Then in my next video on this topic, Fromville Origins Revealed, I broke down even more evidence to support this reincarnation theory. Once again, in episode 8, Tabitha was the key to unlocking another deeply buried memory in Victor's psyche, blocked out by feelings of guilt, just like the last time. Victor was in full meltdown mode, triggered by the partial reveal of a memory involving Christopher and the dummy Jasper arguing. Sarah wasn't able to get through to him on her own, and he asked for Tabitha to come because he believed it had to be her to help him remember, like the last time. And he was right. It did have to be her. I've never seen Tabitha more maternal than in these scenes. She soothed his panic, told him you're okay over and over like a parent says to a child, and calmed him down enough to open the floodgates of his memory again. Sarah assisted with this, distracting him by asking him how the weather was on the day he was trying to recall. She has acted very sisterly toward him, but I'll come back to that later. Victor was upset about his memories being gone, and Tabitha told him nothing is gone. But that statement holds a double meaning. His mother isn't really gone either, because she lives inside of Tabitha. Furthermore, Tilly's conversation with Alice in episode 7 underscored the idea that death isn't the end in this show. She said that she didn't know how it could be anything but the beginning of some grand adventure, or maybe the middle, but not the end. Indeed, when reincarnated people in Fromville die, it's the continuation of a grand but horrific adventure, where they're brought back here over and over again. I believe Tilly's statement was meant as a clue to reincarnation, and that Tilly herself was likely reincarnated and would end up back here again, if this place is still around when she is reborn into a new life. Getting back to this episode 8 scene, though, as Tabitha calmed Victor down, she told him, "We'll remember together." Another interesting choice of words, because they literally do remember being together, Tabitha as Miranda in her past life, and Victor later telling her what he had said to Miranda once he recovers that memory. He remembered that the boy in white said to Christopher that he needed to go through the tree to save the children. Christopher wouldn't go, so Victor told his mother, and that's why she left him on the night she died. Additionally, in this same episode, Henry had a talk with Jim and told him, "When I look at you, all I see is myself 40 years ago. It was so sure that I could fix her. It never occurred to me that she wasn't broken." Once again, an interesting choice of words here. Henry doesn't even say the name Miranda, just her. I was so sure that I could fix her. Which is fitting because, in my opinion, he is really talking about the same person who is now Jim's wife, with the same soul. And Jim is trying to fix her as well. It makes sense that Tabitha would pick a similar kind of man and have similar marital problems if she is Miranda reincarnated. And now for the ultimate confirmation, as far as I'm concerned. In episode 9, Revelations chapter 1, Tabitha begins to experience flashes of memories returning from her past life as Miranda. When she's still in the church with Sarah and Victor, she tries to comfort him as he begins to have a meltdown again. She touches Victor's arm as he goes to leave and gets a strange expression on her face, freezing in place. Sarah notices and asks what happened when she touched Victor, but she doesn't know. This is the start of her memories from Miranda returning. And I think that this has been made possible by her journey out of Fromville and meeting Henry, learning all about Miranda and his story about the chosen ones. I think that's why her memories have been able to start returning now. And that's what the boy in white meant when he said, "I'm sorry, this is the only way." She needs to remember her origins. She needs to be back in touch with them and remember who she is in order to try and break the cycle. Meanwhile, Victor is devastated by the recollection of the truth about why his mother left him and his sister on the night when she died. He now blames himself for her death because she only left that night because he had told her that that Christopher refused the boy in white's instruction to go through the tree. Victor is so upset that he throws a lot of his stuff out the window of his room at Colony House, saying he kept these things because he thought it would help, but it only hurts. He even tries to chop down the faraway tree, but the boy in white stops him, telling him the tree is important, but he won't tell Victor why it is. He says that he won't help them because he tried with Christopher. He says, "I think you'll need to learn for yourselves. It's the only way you'll understand." This parallels what the boy in white said to Tabitha when he pushed her out of the lighthouse. "I'm sorry, I really am. This is the only way." Again, that phrase, the only way. There's no doubt in my mind that the boy in white sent her to Camden, Maine to find Henry and learn about her origins for herself by hearing his story about Miranda's visions of the chosen ones. It's just too uncanny that she happened to land within walking distance of Henry's house. What would be the odds of that? The boy in white even appeared on the street in the real world and led her in the right direction to find a church, where the priest urged her to open Victor's lunchbox, in which she found Henry's address. I believe that the boy in white actually spoke to the priest in his head, masquerading as the voice of God. Recall that Father Cautry said he once heard what he thought was the voice of God for the first time in his life as he was about to jump off a bridge. It told him to get back in his car and drive, and 2 hours later he was in Fromville. I believe that was actually the boy in white, and he used the same trick on this new priest to feed him information that Tabitha would be coming, to ensure that she opened the lunchbox and found the address to Henry's house. The boy in white must feel that people won't trust him if he just tells them the truth, that it's too much for them to handle coming from him, and they will panic if they hear the whole truth all at once. Like when he told Christopher to go through the tree, he most likely told him the truth about his own origins and how he was reincarnated, based on how upset Christopher got in Victor's flashback from that night. I don't think that we saw the whole conversation at all. We just saw the little bit that Victor walked in on. It was probably too much for Christopher to be told that he had been reincarnated many times over. And as I said in my previous videos on this theory, I think that he was at the center of it all, the ringleader for the original child sacrifice that started the vicious cycle in the first place. At least one of his past lives was responsible. As a result, I think Christopher needed to sacrifice himself to end the cycle, but he refused. And Jade may have to do this in the end, unless they can find another way. Check out my videos on the origins of Jade and Tabitha and Fromville Origins Revealed for more details on this part of my theory. So this is why I think the boy in white decided not to tell people the truth himself, but just to try to lead them in the right direction toward the truth when he can, letting them figure it out and accept the truth about their origins gradually on their own. Similarly, I believe the Ankui kids are trying to lead Tabitha toward the truth as well. In episode 9, an Ankui girl beckons her to follow. She leads Tabitha to the root cellar with Julie joining her. This may have a double purpose, to lead Tabitha to where Fatima is being held prisoner, but also, I think, the main objective is to lead her to Victor and put her in a position in which she's able to recover the memory of her past life as Miranda. When Tabitha arrives there, she touches the side of the root cellar bulkhead to walk down the stairs, and it causes her to get another weird expression on her face, as she did when she touched Victor's arm earlier in the day. Clearly, she's close to recovering her memory, and once again, she looks dazed and confused. She recovers herself and enters the cellar, finding Victor alone with tears in his eyes. He says, "This is where she left us. All those years I thought there was a reason that I lived. I was the reason she died." Tabitha tells Victor it wasn't his fault, and he was just a little boy, then embraces him. He buries his face against her shoulder like a child would with his mother. Victor goes from being distraught to being calm, like this is the most natural thing in the world for him to be comforted by her. No one else was able to reach him in this episode, as his emotions had spun out of control. But here is this woman embracing him in the same spot where his mother last embraced him before she died. And on some level, he senses his mother's soul and responds to her. I firmly believe that. That's when the most earth-shattering moment happens. Tabitha experiences the memory of her past life as Miranda. We see the flashback to Miranda embracing young Victor and Eloise and telling them how much she loves them. Her face was specifically pressed against Victor's, too, just like Tabitha's face is now. The shots actually mirror each other. Here it's Miranda, to the left of Victor, with her face pressed against the side of his face and her arm around his neck. The two of them are framed toward the right side of the shot. And then in this shot, Tabitha is to the right of Victor with her face pressed against his face and her arm around his neck. The two of them are framed toward the left side of the shot. So the two shots mirror each other, and that is sending us a message that we're supposed to connect Tabitha with Miranda, not Eloise, in my opinion. I know some people think that she was reincarnated as Eloise, or that she literally is Eloise, but all of the clues I've mentioned in this video point to Miranda. They gave us a one-to-one comparison with this shot of Tabitha's face as she's embracing Victor, tears welling up in her eyes as she becomes emotional, followed by this shot of Miranda's face breaking down emotionally as she was embracing Victor and Eloise. Again, that choice of mirroring these shots and showing both characters breaking down while hugging Victor, the powerful clue that Tabitha is remembering that she was indeed Miranda, hugging the kids in the same way that she is hugging Victor now. Tabitha pulls back and says, "No, that's impossible." She runs out of the root cellar, stops short, and continues to panic. And then we cut to a flashback of none other than Miranda running through the woods. She reaches the faraway bottle tree, but before she can get inside, Smiley appears, runs toward her, and tackles her, which incidentally, we've never seen before. The monsters actually can run. They just choose not to, because at this point in the game, they apparently like dragging out the whole cat and mouse chase. And maybe in this case, he had no choice but to run to stop her from getting into the tree. Right at the moment when Miranda dies in the flashback, we cut back to Tabitha in full meltdown mode, crying and clutching her face. It makes sense that the memory she's getting stops at that moment and cuts back to her, as if she were Miranda, because she wouldn't have any memory after that. The flashback ends at the moment when Miranda dies. If Tabitha were remembering seeing this event occur as Eloise, the flashback should have continued beyond that point. But we don't see Eloise in that scene at all. And so the mystery of what happened to Eloise continues. Victor has said this season that she died, but he might just be assuming that. I understand that some people still believe Tabitha is Eloise, but again, if you follow the trail of breadcrumbs that the show has given us starting in season 1, all the clues I've broken down in this video and my other 3 theory videos on this topic, it makes the most sense for Tabitha to be Miranda reincarnated. The other option could be that Tabitha is simply receiving the memories of Miranda because she's a chosen one who's filling the same role. And that's a strong possibility as well. But I still maintain that reincarnation makes the most sense. If she were just seeing a vision of Miranda's memories, I don't think Tabitha would have such a visceral, horrified reaction like this. crying and panicking, saying that's impossible. She appears to be reliving her own death. If this were a vision of someone else's memories, she would certainly feel upset at the disturbing and devastating sight. She'd be sad for what happened to Miranda and the effect that it had on Victor. But I doubt that she would break down emotionally like she did here. This is the reaction one would expect of someone remembering her past life, leaving her children behind and getting murdered. Furthermore, as Tabitha was having this meltdown, Julie tried to comfort her, and she said, "Don't touch me," and pulled away. As Julie keeps trying to comfort her and stays close, Tabitha reaches for Victor's hand instead. It was as if, in this moment, she were more Miranda than Tabitha, with these newly restored memories from Miranda's life. So when we put all the clues together from season 1 to the present, the most likely conclusion we can make is that Tabitha is Miranda reincarnated. Taking into account the bracelet conundrum, her recognition of the dress in the old suitcase, her recognition of the crayon holder, her maternal bond with Victor and ability to unlock his most painful memories regarding his mother, her connection with Miranda's favorite song, the way Henry was protective of her, her recurring nightmares of herself as a little girl wearing very old clothing in Fromville, and now these flashbacks as she embraces Victor and we see Miranda hugging her kids, coupled with this mirrored shot of Tabitha and seeing Miranda getting murdered, which makes Tabitha have a meltdown. The evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of Tabitha being Miranda reincarnated. But what does this mean for everyone else? As I explained in my previous videos, the origins of Jade and Tabitha and the video Fromville Origins revealed, I believe that Jade is Christopher reincarnated, as well as every other man in his visions who represent his past lives. But I don't think everyone on the show is reincarnated. That wouldn't even make sense. For example, Ethan fills the role of Victor on the show. As Victor said, the boy in white chose you like he chose me once. He fills the role of young Victor when he was a little boy. They have similar parts to play, but they are not the same person and are not reincarnated. Jim is filling the role of Henry as Tabitha's husband, but both of these men are still alive and obviously not reincarnated. I think that some people like them just fill the role of someone who came before. Some people were unlucky enough to marry a reincarnated person or be the offspring of a reincarnated person and be drawn into Fromville with them. Or they just happen to be traveling in the same vehicle, like most of the people on the bus or Henry in the car with Tabitha. Most of the major players in town, I think, though, are likely reincarnated, like Elgin, Fatima, Sarah, and possibly Donna. Any major characters who have supernatural experiences. A lot of them seem to be reincarnated. The people who have visions, most definitely, and the people who have seizures. Except for Ethan. I think that Ethan is just tapped into this place. I don't think that he could possibly be reincarnated from someone else because he lines up the most with Victor's role. There is less evidence to support the reincarnation of other characters than we have for Jade and certainly Tabitha, but this is the theory I'm going with right now. There's one other person who has some evidence of reincarnation, but just not as clear yet, and it's Sarah. Tony Teflon has theorized that she is Eloise reincarnated. And it's true, out of nowhere in season 3, she has emerged as a sisterly figure to Victor, as he suddenly turned to her for support and assistance with recovering his lost memories. It seemed completely random at the time, and he said it was because she's the scariest person in town, so she won't be scared about what he remembers. But he sure doesn't seem scared of her. He seems instinctively trusting of her. And he mentioned in a previous episode that Eloise was always so good at hiding that he could never find her if he tried. So wouldn't it be interesting if she's literally hiding in plain sight, reincarnated as Sarah? She has been gentle and kind to him, and he even rested his head on her shoulder in this scene after his father first showed up in town, and she offered him support. He looks at peace here, and she leans against him, too. Sarah sought out help for him from Tabitha, and with Tabitha's assistance, she was able to help unlock Victor's memory of Christopher. Then Sarah helped to calm him down by starting with a simple question about what the weather was like on the day he was trying to remember. Sarah, Tabitha, and Victor look a lot like a family unit lately. Also, Victor made an interesting comment again. He played hide and seek with Eloise, but he could never find her. Now, I'm not married to this particular theory yet, unless we get more evidence, but it's food for thought. There's one thing I am convinced of, though. Tabitha is Miranda reincarnated. I think that she, Jade, and others were reincarnated from the original people who committed the child sacrifice of the Ankui kids, which cursed the people responsible to be reborn again and again and brought here until they can figure out their true origins and what they need to do to break the cycle. For more on this theory, check out my video, The Origins of Jade and Tabitha. The implications of Tabitha's memories returning will be mind-blowing as the finale of Season 3 approaches. Now, I want to know what you think. Do you think that Miranda was reincarnated as Tabitha? Or did Tabitha just receive Miranda's memories because she's filling the role of a chosen one, which is another possibility? If you think about it, our memories really make us who we are, so either way, you could say that Tabitha and Miranda are kind of one and the same now. Or how else would you explain Tabitha's flashback about Miranda in episode 9 and all the other clues that I've broken down linking these two women? What do you think Tabitha will do next? What did you think about Victor's interaction with the boy in white as he told Victor not to chop down that faraway tree? And what would happen if he had done it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And until next time, keep on deep diving and let's see what we can uncover together.